So hey guys, my name's Lynch from Primal Nomad, and I do a lot of bushcrafting here in the UK. I'm based in a little village in Buckinghamshire called Milton Keynes, just outside of Milton Keynes actually. And yeah, surrounded by woodland. I spend a lot of my free time there doing solo trips with other people, and really enjoy bushcraft in a whole. The subject really amazed me as a young child, and since then it's kind of been the road of just different rabbit hole. I've progressed onto hunting, overlanding, all sorts. It's just, yeah, it's a really good journey, and I've been sharing that on YouTube for quite a while, and I've really just enjoyed that process. And it's great to be going out and doing all these solo adventures and just spreading the love within bushcraft as well. So I'm 31 years old and have lived in this area for all of my life. So around the Buckinghamshire area, Woburn Sands is my small little village that I'm from. And as a young child, like I said before, was always surrounded by countryside, and my family is a big Irish family on my father's side and a smaller kind of Scottish / Yorkshire family on my mother's side. So I've had both of those cultures, and my childhood was always full of fun and laughs, but traveling up to the north of England and seeing all the Lake District, Yorkshire Dales and stuff like that with my sister, it was great. When we went on these holidays, we, for example, in the Lake District, we'd always go to Lake Coniston, which is where Arthur Ransom based his novels, The Swallows and Amazons. So as young children, we were reading these books and going out, having a campfire, cooking up on the beach, and it was a great way to just, well-rounded kind of childhood. So I'm really thankful for that. And that just progressed into scouts, and it just carried on really. I haven't stopped. So I guess I can thank it down to probably seeing the bushcraft kind of hero to some, Ray Mears. I saw him on TV as a very young child, and I was just encaptured by, he was doing hand drill, rubbing sticks together to make fire, and he was cooking cattail root or rhizomes on the fire. And I was enthralled by this, and I thought, right, I have to find out how to do this. How can I rub sticks together and make fire? That's amazing. Probably a little childhood fantasy of being a caveman absolutely amazed me. So that was really the rabbit hole and the spark that got me on the bushcraft journey. And then again, like I said, my parents kind of helped by doing all those outdoor adventures, which just made my thirst even more unsatiable. So I just thought, courses were on my Christmas list, always books, stuff like that. And one year my parents did get me a course to go on the Woodlaw fundamental bushcraft course, and really loved that and excelled at it. And then kind of thought, well, let's keep the ball rolling with this. And just went out and practiced and went up into the woods. And at that stage, there wasn't really many people who I knew locally to me who even knew what bushcraft was. It was a really, back 20 years ago, it was quite not an unknown thing, but quite small. And I've just seen it flourish over these last 20 years. It's been amazing. I remember being in the library as a 12-year-old child, like kind of searching through primitive eBay, kind of looking for hammocks and tarps, and if you found a bivy or a bivy bag, it was like a bit of gold dust. There was hardly any companies making these things. So it's trawling through loads of that and building up kit, a lot of which I've still got, funnily enough. I've got all of my first bits of equipment, my first knife, for example. And I guess as time progressed, you've come across other people, or conversation with new friends start, and it turns out they've seen bushcraft and have wanted to do it. And then we had a good local group of friends who used to go up the woods and kind of explore that together. And that's when I then started to encounter group camps, and through group camps I kind of got more confidence to go out solo as well. I had gone out solo before, but it was always when I was feeling extra kind of brave as a younger adult. And I remember one time I went up and I got all set up, and something scared me. Something just set me off, and I thought, no, that's me done. And I didn't go camping for a while. So I think having that also bounce back with some friends camping does give you company, and it's you know, kind of restores, sometimes can restore what camping's about. It's not always about being alone, but that time is amazing to me as well. So it's always been that hard balance now, because there's so many people who I know do bushcraft now. It's hard to find time to actually go camping on your own. You're always invited to, let's go do a little duo camp, let's go do this group camp, and sometimes it's nice just to reset. So yeah, that's kind of my little you know, thing in the distance that I'm always looking forward to. So I think my first solo trip was actually, oh, it was years ago. I couldn't tell you exactly when, but years ago. And I remember, I think I was really motivated to kind of go out, and I think I'd actually watched an episode of something, I can't remember what it was, and someone was going through real hard situation, and but they had a pretty amazing time anyway. And I thought, well, actually, I've been doing bushcraft for a few years now. It's probably about time that I actually go out and see if I can keep myself going for a night. I've got half of the kit. I shouldn't just keep looking at it. I'll keep doing day trips and late into the evening. So yeah, it was a case of then that task of preparing everything, and I think I went a bit over the top. I do remember carrying a hell of a lot of kit that I didn't need, just because, you know, you kind of get into the thought of, oh, how you don't know what to expect at that point. You think, oh, I had a, you know, a pretty heavy self-inflating sleeping mat that I don't use now because it was just too heavy for it. It took up too much space. I had things tied onto the outside of my bag, so I had, you know, I was only doing a little overnight. I had an axe with me, I had food for like 4 days probably, enough spare clothes to keep me dry in case I, you know, there was enough things in there for a week probably, but I was only going for the night. And it's, again, it's that learning curve of thinking, will I need this, will I not? And you don't have that experience of, actually, you don't need a lot of things, because you can go and outsource it. And you kind of get, I remember getting there and then having all this surplus stuff, and then like I had a little thing to hang my pots on, a little tripod, but I still was practicing the skills to make a pot hanger, for example. So I didn't really need to bring it in the first place. But I remember vividly, after setting up camp, just sitting there and thinking, actually, you know, this build up, it's not anticlimactic, but you can kind of build yourself up so much for like, right, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do this, and then you sit down and you think, actually, it's just nice being here. Or you know, or at points you think, well, not got much to do, but that's really nice to not have, you know, to not have anything to do. You kind of forget, you kind of think, well, it's not all about being busy when you're out there. And I just really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed cooking. I'd done a lot of cooking in the woods, so that wasn't new to me, but cooking to make sure I was fed for the night, knowing that I wasn't just able to go to the fridge and grab a snack, even though I had plenty of stuff in the rucksack. It was really nice. And I do remember getting, at one point, the sounds kind of, when it gets quiet at night in the woods, it really does get, it's a loud quiet. And I remember that being very daunting for the first time. You know, you hear, it's quiet, but you hear every twig breaking, you hear every flap of every owl, and you can get, you know, you close your eyes for a minute and it's very disorientating when you're not done it for a little while. Even now, sometimes you go out and there'll be a sound that makes you stand up. There'll be a sound that kind of, although we're in the UK and there's nothing really that's predating us, there's still that instinctive kind of, I'm on high alert when you hear something. And I remember that being something I had to battle with. I remember kind of telling myself, you're right, there's no bears here, thankfully. I know the guys in America and Canada and stuff like that, they'll be in a different ball game altogether. But yeah, for us over here, at least I could say that to myself. And then you've got to remember that if you bed up the fire nicely, you've got a little flicker of flame there. And that's always what I find the most enthralling thing about camping, is just, I get into my bag and I just turn over and I'm just drifting off looking at that fire. It's one of the most, even if you're not close to it and you can't feel that much warmth off of it, it warms you really deep inside. And it's feels like something you've done all before. And I just remember not wanting to leave really. In the morning I kind of woke up and I thought, right, I need to make the most of today and just get up nice and bright and early, get the fire going, back into the bag. And it was just, yeah, brilliant. And I think it was, once you've done that first one and once you've come across that, obviously every time is going to be different, but you know what to expect. Again, I could go back and say, right, that bit of kit didn't ever come out of my bag, I won't bring that next time, and if I miss it I might reintroduce it. So and I really enjoyed that part, and I'm still doing that now. I still look at my kit and I'm like, what can I cut down, or what did I miss last time? So yeah, it was good to kickstart that, and I recommend it to anyone. Even if it's your first solo camp, to experience that. Could be out in the garden, you know, could be out in a local area, a local farm or something like that. So I think, yeah, free time when you're camping is always one of those little things that is there, but there's always something to do when you're camping as well, whether it's stock up on firewood, and or even just sit down and reflect on the day. You know, too often we kind of forget to actually look at what we've done or what we've achieved in the day or what could have gone better. Time for reflection is really important, and that's why I enjoy camping so much, because it does give me that time to slow things down and say, I've brought things back to a more natural pace. The things I've got to attend to is the fire. Is there enough firewood? And like when those things are done and you've got that period of time from kind of set up, and you've got that stretch now till the dawn, there's not much going on, there's not many distractions, but there's always things to, like I said, things to get on with. It can be a time to just sit down and practice your carving, or go through your gear, check on your equipment, sharpen your knives, have a look at your axe, check over your boots, even do a bit of foot admin, you know, dry out your feet, get them warm, something for the spirit. And you don't, again, it's getting away from that modern, we're very used to a modern life of distractions. There's always something pinging in here and coming in there, and a little hello here, and something to distract us, and we get on a sidetrack very easily. And the same could be when you're outside. You know, if you sit there for 5 or 10 minutes in silence, you know, it's amazing what you can see and what starts coming out of the woodwork. And even, you know, up in the sky, normally when you're camping, you've got a really good sight on stars and stuff like that. And it's just, I think it's those things that are good to occupy your time with as well. And, you know, even taking a photo of where you camped, documenting things, writing a little journal, things you found along the way in the day. There's sometimes is periods as well where you're kind of sat there and you're thinking, there's, you know, I'm not doing anything, but that's nice. Actually, it's actually nice to have like got to that period. You can be proud that you've actually got to a bit of time where you haven't got much to do, and just take a breather, because you've worked hard getting there, setting up camp. You set up a home from home somewhere, and it is hard work. So it's important to give yourself that reward. That's why you came out there as well. Occasionally I can. Sometimes it depends what mood I'm in. Sometimes I'll, like, let's say I've been solo camping, I've listened to like an audiobook. I've had like a book that I've been reading. I've had that playing while I've just been laid down looking up into the stars. Yeah, nothing better. And I think, you know, we can't run away from the modern life where sometimes I'm even filming my trips. That occupies me a lot of the time. Even just thinking about what am I going to document next? How am I going to frame this next shot? What's going on around me? But I do think it is a good time to get away from that technology side and kind of put the phone, leave it aside. It's nice, obviously, to check in with people, so your partner or your parents or your next of kin, your loved ones, just to say I'm all safe, or, you know, give them a quick call before bed or say goodnight or something like that. It's nice to keep that connection, but there's nothing wrong as well with just packing that in the bag and saying, actually guys, 24 hours, I won't be in touch. I will be in touch if you need me. I'll drop you a text at night to say I've got safe. I'll text you just to say I'm okay in the morning, and I'll text you to say that I'm back safe, kind of thing. You know, nothing wrong with that at all. People nowadays do expect a bit of communication, so it's not always good to go completely radio silent and off into the woods and without letting people know. And you know, just for your own safety, in case something happened, you want people to know where you're going, when you expect to be back. But yeah, it is a good time to get away from it, but there's nothing wrong with going out there and saying, actually, I am a bit of a, I do like my technology, but I like being outside. I'll enjoy both together. You know, as long as you're not like this the whole night and not forgetting that you are in a beautiful place, there's nothing wrong with it, I don't think, as well. I think my drive to do this comes from an inherent want to, while I can, while I'm young enough and able-bodied enough, because who knows what's around the corner ever. I want to just take the opportunities I can, and if I could, in reality, I'd live like this every day, really. I could throw a lot of what we have out, and it would be harder. I'm not saying it wouldn't be harder, but at least it would be hard for a good reason. So I think it keeps me going because there's always a lot more to learn, a lot more to experience, and you can solo camp in one place and you can go back to the same place and have a totally different experience, and that's what always gets me as well. You're always guaranteed something different every time you go out. It can be similar, but it's never the same, and there's always different hardships. There's always different weather. You're normally battling it with the rain over here, so it's one thing that keeps you on your toes, and it's a nice surprise when it's not raining, so that's another good thing. And yeah, I guess I've always loved that traditional way of life as well. For me, the dream is living off grid, you know, my neighbor being a mile down the road. And then, yeah, that's it really. Small hoarding, grow my own food and produce, and hunt meat. Obviously still work and outsource different supplies, help in a community kind of based way as well. But to be self-sufficient would be my kind of my dream. So I guess this is as close as I can get for now. Always enjoy coming back from a trip in the terms of reflecting and looking. I love going back over what I've done and looking at the pictures, looking at the videos, and even seeing where I made stupid little mistakes or errors and kind of think, oh, I could have done that a lot easier. So that's always good fun. But I guess even before that, planning it, the build up is always oh, I've got so many plans. So I think I'd have to say I'm a sucker for the planning stage of a trip. There's so many trips that I've still yet to go out and do that I've planned, and it's just that it gets the mind going because there's so many possibilities, you know. You can only ever do so much in a day, and a lot of things that you do in bushcraft do take time. You know, there's certain things that can be done quickly, and it's not always about going out and again practicing a skill. You don't have to bushcraft, you don't have to go out and let's say, right, today I'm making a pot hanger and that's today's, you know, it bushcraft is meant to be, you go out, you come across a problem and you find a very elegant solution to it, that nature can provide. That's really the down to it for me. So I guess, yeah, planning I enjoy so much. Obviously I enjoy going out there and doing it, and like I said, looking back at it. But yeah, something about planning it, planning the kit, planning the food. I'm a massive foodie. I just, yeah, cooking in the woods is my favorite thing, so I always get excited about that. And then yeah, it's good. You can't plan too much either, because if you don't pull out a plan straight away, if you have time to sit on it, that really matures into you come across things that you hadn't even contemplated. You know, quite often I've done little projects and I could have easily rushed into it, something's held me back, and then 2 weeks later I've discovered this other method and I'm like, oh, imagine if I'd wasted all that time doing this other thing. So sometimes it is good to procrastinate. I think I sometimes do over procrastinate as well. I've had a few funny trips. One of the big wake up calls actually was um, in one of my recent trips, it was harmless because I found it, but I lost my knife. I went for a little walk and my knife hopped out of the sheath, and I had no idea. And just before, I think it was just before I went to bed or just in the morning, I realized that I didn't have my knife, and I was like, oh no, this is a big woods. And I went on a long walk, and so kind of I just went full alert and retraced my steps. And I'm always conscious of kind of taking visual landmarks of where I'm going. So that was a reinforcement to keep doing that. So that was quite funny, but it was a good wake up call to kind of always keep your eye on things and just double check things when you're moving, make sure they're secure. And I think I've had some funny experiences where I've just forgotten to do things, like forgotten to fully tension my guy lines, and I've woken up in the middle of the night and the whole thing is howling, tarp is just going mental. So yeah, things like that. It's funny experiences. At the time, obviously, you're kind of like, oh no, the whole world's coming into me, bloody shelter at the moment. But when you get out of that and you look back, it is quite funny. So but they're all learning curves as well. No one does it perfect first time, and if we did, it would be pretty boring. I remember, in fact, going off on a tangent quickly. Myself and Tom, one of my good friends, back garden bushcraft, we were both doing a twin shelter build. So we had two ridge lines on two lean-to shelters off of one ridge line, and they were kind of like V'd off each other. So we were both technically supporting off of this one pole, and my shelter, my ridge pole snapped. And then I kind of turned to Tom and I said, oh, it's okay. I said, thank God yours never went. And about 2 seconds later, his just So yeah, funny things like that. But it just reminds us again, double check your wood. If you're using it for a shelter, make sure it's good and solid. I remember a friend and myself got really into going out into the woods, having these really nice just day trip adventures, put on a backpack, a little day sack with a nice bit of pack lunch, like some food in it, billy can, little fire, twig stove. And we'd just go on these, 9 o'clock in the morning, we'd go out. We wouldn't come back until 9 in the evening, long summer days, just adventuring in the woods, just start at one end of the woods and go a few hundred acres into the next bit of woods. Just lovely, different tracks and trails, just never following the path, just trailblazing. And we used to put out trail cameras, and so we had a little trail camera with us, and we were climbing up this pretty steep sandy bank, and kind of heard scuffling around, so we quietened down. It was probably about 6 o'clock, so starting to get towards dusk. And as we kind of peered our heads over this hill, it's very steep, so we're kind of holding onto the roots of these trees. We see down in this little bowled out area a badger set, and just in front of them were 3 little badger cubs all rolling around playing together, and mum and dad badger were there and keeping an eye on them. And we just peering over, just sat there for like 10-15 minutes as the light started to drop in, just watching them. Yeah, it was moments like that, really magical. So we kind of quietly tied up the trail camera and backed off and thought we'll have some good footage in the morning. So and when we went back, there'd been a fox, there'd been badgers, squirrels, rabbit, all sorts. It was, yeah, really nice to see so much activity in one little area that you could have just walked past, very easily. One of the biggest valuable assets we have nowadays to us is our smartphones. They work as a rudimentary GPS. They do connect like GPSs, maybe it's not as many satellites. And I'd always recommend people, if they're going on longer expeditions, to invest in a GPS. But even as a beginner, it can be a good idea to then cross-reference between a compass and a GPS or a smartphone. For example, like Google Maps, you can download offline maps. So if you know you're going to an area up in the mountains, you can download that section of map onto your phone and then say, right, even if I haven't got internet, I'm likely to still be able to get GPS so I can pinpoint my location. And through that, I can then coordinate where I am on the mountain, because the last thing you want to be doing is, you know, taking any risks. Let's say if the weather comes in and it's foggy, but then also there's times when you need to know when to make a decision to stop as well. So sometimes it is worth saying, actually, you know, if you are lost, panic can kind of set in. Sit down, give yourself 10-15 minutes, pull out, hopefully if your phone has got battery, pull that out, start to recollect things. But good compass knowledge is really, you know, you don't have to be able to be a master with a compass, but at least knowing, being able to read what direction you're going in, and bring a map of, obviously, of the area. Don't always rely on a GPS, so do have a paper copy of a map, because if your phone runs out of battery, if you can kind of keep track on the direction you're going and you know where you started, you should be able to estimate what area you're in. And with an estimation, you can then say, right, what landmarks can I visually see? What on the maps around me? And then you can start kind of picking away at where you are. So little things like that, but it's about not panicking and remembering the tools you've got. Sometimes I've even been guilty of kind of forgetting that, oh, let's just pull out the map. Let's just, why am I panicking now that I kind of don't recognize this, you know, because things don't always look how they look on a map either. There are natural indicators to direction as well. Moss growing on trees. It depends, obviously, what hemisphere you're in. So for us, it would be the northern side, northern hemisphere. South facing would have the moss, whereas in the southern hemisphere, I assume, Australians will have to correct me here, but I assume it's on the other side. But that's obviously because there's more sun from that direction. And the northern side of our trees get less UV, so therefore plants are less likely to grow on them. So from that, you might be able to say, okay, well, I estimate that I'm going north based on the growth of this. When you're on mountains, sometimes you can, through prior research, you might know what way the prevailing winds usually are in that area, and trees might be slightly more windswept, grown in one direction. So that can be, again, another indicator. Generally as well, birds tend to move more inland. So if you're nearer the coast and you see in the evening birds starting to move further inland, that can give you more indications. So there's little natural things like that that can help you in emergencies, or just be little indicators as well. I'm not too good on my cosmology. The stars, I could point out the North Star, but for me still, it's something I'm still learning, because yeah, the sky can look very different depending on what angle you look at it as well. General hobbies, it's really hard, actually. I am, funny enough, a bit of an avid gamer. Not massively, I don't delve too much, but I do game. Depends, really. I game a lot with friends online. I've grown up around kind of online computers, PlayStation, stuff like that, so I've got a little bit of soft spot for that, which I enjoy. I also enjoy just I don't know, anything really. I guess my biggest hobby is bushcraft and stuff like that. So it's hard to kind of escape that a lot of the time. Really, it's if I'm not working doing brickwork, which is my main income earner. I do a lot of restoration on historic buildings, but that twins with bushcraft in some kind of ways. I'm outdoors doing a lot of traditional crafts, which is nice. So yeah, I'd say it's, you know, reading books and watching things with my partner, cooking food. I love cooking. So doing stuff in the vegetable garden, I shouldn't forget that. That takes up a lot of time in summer and spring. But yeah, so I guess that encompasses, that's kind of covered by bushcraft growing things. So yeah, I don't know, lots of different bits and pieces. Or yeah, trip, or I guess if I could end up somewhere like in the States or somewhere with a big wilderness, and I've got my backpack on with my stuff, I've got enough food for a few days, you know, maybe a week's worth of food, like rations, dry rations or whatever. I got a rifle on my back or a bow, preferably a bow, and just going with it. Just that's my dream, like living off the living off the land. See, I don't I might be useless at it, but I think I'd do all right. I don't know, that's my biggest passion, is to kind of go out there and say, actually, I'm on a journey, I've got limited things, I need to get food. I need to, I don't know, that experience for me is living how our ancestors really did live. And it's not to, I don't want to just be playing it, I want to really pay homage in its whole sense. I want to really feel like I'm doing the work, and I want to feel connected to those people. I actually, you know, I feel if I didn't do that at least once, I'd be insulting them, because none of us would be here if they didn't do that every single day. And I only want to do it once. I'd like to keep it like this cross between, it's an educational vlog. So I am sharing what my journey is, but also corresponding that knowledge on, passing that knowledge down and showing, showcasing that. I think I enjoyed the hunting series that I've just put out. I really enjoyed doing the kind of not instructional, but kind of educating on voiceover with that. And I've really enjoyed injecting those bits of retrospect into my episodes. That's really, really been nice. So I think that way, probably kind of keeping this almost like a TV series. It's like my channel is just like just constantly, I don't know, this is an evolution of telling a story of my journey and hopefully motivating other people. I don't think I'd want to go fully down the road of teaching, although I'd be happy to. It's more of a case, so I think I'm better at conveying stuff through storytelling as well, and through kind of showing people, or reminding people what they sometimes oversee. I see a lot of my inspiration for content comes from seeing something and thinking, oh, actually there's a different way of doing this, or you know, actually I like that, let's build on this. And I really enjoy that process. So hopefully the channel just keeps moving forward. I'm really obviously so thankful to all of my subscribers so far, and injecting the Navara, the overlanding stuff into that, and the hunting, I think it's all coming together into this, what I wanted to be more of a lifestyle kind of thing. And then hopefully in the future, you know, someone finds me a few years down the line and thinks, blimey, look how much he's grown from the beginning to the end. And it's something I can look back on as well. I mean, the trailer just blew me away, because there were so many different little snippets of clips that I'd even forgotten about, little trips that I went out on. And it's really nice to remind yourself, hey, there I am doing that. I love that. And the way it was edited was just beautifully done. I mean, it inspired me to, I was thinking, oh man, I need to get my editing game up, this is incredible. And yeah, just even though it was me and I was looking at myself, it was kind of like, the way it was put across just made it look really, really it's just professionally done, really, really capturing. And it just made me smile so much, because it's nice to see how things can be put together. I struggle with compilation kind of things like that, I really do. I'm good at putting loads of things like that together that work fluidly. It's very hard. So I can really appreciate the work that went into it. And it was nice to see it. I'd been watching all the other people's trailers, and then to finally have mine out, I was like, no way. And like some of the funny clips were amazing, like when my saw collapsed, and like just it was just like one of the funniest memories. And like I'd completely forgotten about that moment, and now I can't stop remembering it. It's brilliant.